While my peers were partying and doing teenage things, I spent my weekends in the recording studio, long nights that started at 2 a.m. after a full day of school. It was pretty exciting to be in the studio, all the creative juices flowing, and seeing vocal track upon vocal track upon vocal track just get created. As I started to get some success in the Canadian music scene, I always kept striving for more. What could I achieve next? All before the age of 17, I released a full-length album, spoke at the United Nations headquarters on human rights education, met former Prime Minister Paul Martin through my efforts for the Tsunami Relief Fund and my anti-bullying song, Song of Peace. I even had a music video on Much Music, but I still wanted more. Yeah, that's me. So record labels sparked interest in me, but the state of the industry was changing. I met with the head of A&R from Atlantic Records in New York City, and he told me at the time when I was doing R&B music that, quote unquote, and I apologize if this offends anyone, that black girls were not going to purchase my CDs because I was white. So not only was I faced with racist comments about my music and what I was trying to portray, there was other things on top of that. PR firms told me I had to lose 20 pounds if I wanted to do pop music. I'm the same weight I was 15 years ago, and I think I'm an average build. So I didn't understand why. Why was this all conflicting if it's supposed to be about the song, supposed to be about the talent? And they also told me that I should sound like Pink or Kelly Clarkson, and that's how I needed to be. So after some discouragement and mixed messaging, I really wanted to empower myself and know the business. So I went to school for recording arts management in Toronto at a Harris Institute. And while I was there, I was the youngest in my class at 17. I graduated with honors, and then I was awarded a scholarship to pursue Bachelor of Arts in Commercial Music in Scotland. In Scotland, I ran a school tour where I traveled to elementary schools throughout the Glasgow region, sharing my songs and speaking about human rights education. Learning to tour manage and run live shows, I started to branch out more into the business side. A year later, I moved back home to Canada, and I almost had this reverse culture shock. All my friends had moved on, they had went away for school, or they had started new jobs, and I didn't know where I fit in. So I started to feel down and depressed. I don't even think I knew what depression was at that time. It wasn't that big of a topic. And this was already, talking about almost 10 years ago now. So all I could think about was getting back on that flight to Glasgow, where I was happy, where I was in my element. How could I do that? Where everything seemed fun and easy. So within that time, I started applying for jobs in Toronto and landed a role as events coordinator at the age of 21. And flip in. Where I started to stage manage shows at Kerner Hall, so at the Royal Conservatory of Music, and the Library of Congress in Washington. But the overachiever in me, again, was never satisfied, and I always wanted more. My next role in the industry was events coordinator at a not-for-profit. I felt like I finally got the great combination of my two loves, live events and philanthropy work. So at 23, I landed a job in special events on the We Day team, now known as WeOrg, if anyone knows it. Stadium-sized youth empowerment event where students earn their ticket through service. You can't buy a ticket to We Day. I'm already going back into that old messaging. So after landing this job, I ended up changing my culture by joining that workplace. A culture became my new life and my family. From age 23 to 26, I lived out of a suitcase 4 to 5 months out of the year, traveling across North America. Sounds pretty glamorous, it's really not. So a year and a half into my first role on the We Day team, like any millennial, I got bored. I applied for a couple manager positions, but the organization was determined to hire externally, and they just kept saying no, no, no. So being eager to learn something new, I created a job for myself. I heard the buzz throughout the community that the Maasai women from our projects overseas were coming over and that they were going to be part of the We Day stage. That was a big project. So I said to my director, who's managing that? I want to do that. I want to tour manage. And they first said, no, we got it covered, don't worry about it. And a couple weeks after, they're like, okay, the job is yours. So after that, at 24, I was handed the responsibility of a $100,000 budget. Here, go on tour. 11-week women's empowerment tour, 6 staff members, and now added to the mix, Kisaruni High School girls. So I was managing women from the Mara, as well as girls that had never left their community before, haven't even been to Nairobi, let alone Toronto. So picture my life at this point. I'm living with Maasai women in a townhouse in Regent Park in Toronto. My job was to get them to and from live events. We were working 7 days a week, 16-hour days, at least 3 events a day. So I ended up burning out. I knew I had to make a change in my life at this point, but somehow I got suckered in and they offered me one more contract at We Day. And I started becoming a production assistant on the first broadcast of We Day on ABC. I loved my job, but I thought it was going to be different. I thought this time I'll have more time for self-care, more time to get to the gym, more time to see my family, but none of that changed. And I went through this thing again where I started feeling down, and what I didn't know was this big word called anxious. So I went into a depression after leaving that job, but compounded by going through a breakup at the same time. I felt unworthy. I didn't know where my place was anymore. So that was the first sign of my struggle of mental health. Before that, I always just thought it was weird. I just thought sometimes like when I'm thinking too much or I'm feeling like little off, I'm just a weird kid. That's what I thought. I chalked it up for that. So during that time, I decided that I can't keep doing this. After I left the job, I spent my time at home just laying in bed and didn't know what to do with myself. No one needed me anymore. I gave my phone back to We Day, and I wasn't constantly needed. No one was calling me. No one was sending me an email. So I didn't feel as important. With the help of my mother, she ripped me out of bed, and she's like, you need to get help, and brought me to my doctor. And of course, immediately my doctor's like, hey, we can do this, this, and this, and this, and this. And I said, I don't want that to be the only answer, just to write me a prescription. Why do I feel like this? My friends go through breakups. They don't do this. My friends lose jobs. They don't do this. Why am I going through this? So she actually asked me to go to the mental health day program here at the RVH, where I learned about codependency, mindfulness, and it really helped me. So during that time when I was feeling better, I have all these tools now to help me. And then I went through another loss a couple of years after that and went through the same thing again. So I thought, great, I have all the tools now. I'm going to do it all. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to eat. I'm going to get enough sleep. I'm going to drink enough water. And that still wasn't enough. So I started going to yoga. That's how we get to this story today. And I loved it. I felt like myself again. It was something I can do by myself as well. I didn't have to go with a friend. But as I started going to this yoga class, I would go and then I would make my way into child's pose and I would start bawling. So I go home and I tell my mom, like, yeah, I went to yoga again today, but I started crying again. She's like, I don't think you should go to that yoga thing anymore. I don't think it's helping you. And I said, well, I think it is. I think it must be doing something. So I just continued to go and continue to go. So with the little push, she said, maybe you just need a reset. Maybe you need to get out of here, go to Costa Rica, and just go visit my friend and get some sunshine. That's the thing about mental health. It doesn't just turn off when there's sunshine. So I'm overseas now. I'm supposed to be happy. I'm supposed to be blessed with this opportunity to just get away. And my mom's friend actually took me to take a yoga class on the beach. So we make our way down to the beach. And we get there and she gets a text message from the yoga teacher. She's like, oh, I'm sick today. Sorry, I won't be there. So now I'm stranded not stranded, but I'm at the beach with the yoga mat and nothing else. There's another Canadian on the trip with me. And I just said to the girl, I'm like, well, we're already here. Like, do you want me to teach the class? Like, I just go to yoga back home. She's like, oh, okay. 45 minutes later, she looked up to me from a downward dog, and I remember her facial expression. She's like, you've never done that before? I'm like, no. She's like, oh, it was really good. I'm like, it was? She's like, yeah, I understood everything you said. I'm like, oh, okay. She's like, did you ever think about being a teacher? I'm like, no, don't you have to go to India for that or Bali or something? She's like, I don't think so. I'm like, oh, okay. She's like, well, you should think about it. And divine timing, I got back home to Barrie, went to my local studio, and there it was posted, yoga teacher training. I'm like, okay, what are the odds of that? So I signed up for it. I thought this will be my last thing I will do for me. The last thing to help me with my anxiety. I have all these tools now in my back pocket. The last thing. So I went in, this meek person at this time from my breakup, feeling like so insecure, so lost, and came out with this newfound confidence. I had no intention of teaching. I just wanted to do it for myself. So I found my voice again through my new tool, through yoga. After that, I started doing an apprenticeship, and within a month, I was teaching one class, and it became 4 classes a week. Then it came up to 20 classes, and I had to make a decision to leave my full-time job. And back to that, finding that love of something that just like lights you up. So now here I am today, a year ago, I opened up my own yoga studio with the same focus of helping others with their mental health through movement and breath or whatever they need, just holding that space for them. So what I've learned along the journey, the last 15 years or whatever that is, that you can keep striving, you can keep trying, but like, what is the point of this perfectionism that we're all told to be or told to do? So my focus now is being open to my own self-awareness, my own self-love, and my own self-care. And that perfection is not a destination. And just be happy and meet yourself where you're at. Thank you.